What's going on, everyone, and welcome into this edition of b-schaeff Daily Live. Brenden Schaeffer with you here. It is Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. The Cardinals are coming off a nice little run where they win a series against the Angels. They can't quite sweep. They win a series against the Boston Red Sox. They can't quite sweep. But now the tables have turned. The Baltimore Orioles roll into town. A series that I think if you said it at the beginning of the year, I would have had it maybe only ahead of the Dodgers series that opened the season in terms of ranking the possibilities for a Cardinals sweep. It would have been near the very bottom of the list because Baltimore is a really, really good team. They've played like it so far this year, but they come into St. Louis and suddenly things not going so well for the Baltimore Orioles. Cardinals win 3 games, 2 of them actually finished up today. I'm seeing some comments about the Ollie Marmol ejections that have maybe galvanized some people out there in Cardinals land. Let me know in the comments what you think of all of it, what you thought of the amazing Lars Nootbaar play from earlier today. I think you could describe that potentially as a season-changing play by Lars Nootbaar. Now, obviously, you're going to have to see how the Cubs series goes. You're going to have to see how the rest of this season unfolds. But to be able to finally put the knife into a team's chest and get them on a sweep, I finally was able to send a tweet, and it's the title of this live stream. Sweeps aren't that hard. Just play the Orioles. It's the tongue-in-cheek joke I've been making for 5 years, however long it's been, anytime the Cardinals sweep a team. And look, man, the Orioles are a really, really good baseball club, but the Cardinals are playing really good baseball right now, so they were able to get the better of them. They did it with offenses over this stretch. If you look over the past 15 days on MLB.com, I got this information. Cardinals are 7th in OPS and I believe 9th in runs scored, at least as of a little earlier tonight. There could be some games still wrapping up that change that. But basically, the Cardinals have been a top 10 offense over the past couple of weeks, and they've only really been winning for the past 10 games, right? Because that final game in Milwaukee, I believe, was 10 games ago. So that was where the Cardinals sort of began this run, if you can call it that. They didn't get swept in Milwaukee. I think that might have staved off some potential staffing changes, coaching staff, whatever it might have been. I think it was close. I could be totally off base about that, but I think that we were getting to a place where John Mozeliak, he was taking some heat. He was answering questions on KMOX that Sunday morning saying, look, at some point it boils down to performance. We might have faith in the job that Ollie Marmol's doing, but it boils down to performance and getting the most out of these guys. And I think they were teetering on the brink. And to come back from that and be where the Cardinals are right now is very encouraging, but the record is still a record. They're 23-26 on the season. Now, that really is only a game and a half out of a wild card spot, if you can believe it. But that's more of a commentary on the National League at large than it is the Cardinals and the quality of their season to this point. But to go 8 of 10, to do it in the way they've done it by finally establishing that top 10 offense, at least of late, it's not to say they are a top 10 offense, but they're performing as one over the past couple of weeks or so, and that means something. And then you can add in the bullpen. And what the Cardinals got from the bullpen during this Baltimore series is nothing short of spectacular, particularly if you look on Wednesday. Amazing what they were able to do. You start up in the 6th inning because of the rain, the postponement from the day before. Nolan Gorman gets the home run, and that's a big thing too, right? You're talking about the bullpen. You're talking about the various factors that are relevant to the Cardinals and being able to make a run of this thing. The bullpen ends up being a huge part of it, but Nolan Gorman as well is a massive part of what they're hoping to be able to do. The inconsistency for him so far this season had manifested as recently as Friday, and me saying, look, I think he's been the biggest disappointment on this team so far this year. As of now, you'd probably say Goldschmidt because he hasn't really come out of it to the same level. But 8 home runs now, I believe it is, on the year for Nolan Gorman. He is doing a spectacular job finding those spots against lefties at times this year, right? Like, that's just not something that I think a lot of people expected to see, and Nolan Gorman is finding a way to do it. I don't have offhand the exact number of times, but how many times this year has it been, lefty-lefty matchup, they've got the advantage against Nolan Gorman in that spot, and then, again, he's able to come through with a home run like he does today. But then that sets up the opportunity for the bullpen to line up the way Ollie Marmol wants it. His job is easy when you're going with the triumvirate, as we call him in the back of the St. Louis bullpen. You have Andrew Kittredge. He goes for 4 outs, which I think was savvy managing. You might as well take advantage of the lineup and the lefties and the righties and where those guys stack up. JoJo comes in for just a couple of outs, and then you get Ryan Helsley to end game 1. He is as close to automatic as it gets in MLB these days. But what does that mean? You're playing a second game that day, and you just used your 3 relievers. I was kind of wondering if maybe they'd go to a JoJo or even a Kittredge just because those guys have sort of been known to bounce back quickly. Could you throw a guy twice in the same day? Obviously, that didn't seem to be on the table, but it didn't need to be. How about the performances this afternoon from John Keane giving you 2 innings, from Kyle Leahy giving you 2 innings? All of those innings were scoreless. And then Ryan Fernandez, I know he gave up a run, but those 2 singles through the right side of the infield, just kind of some bad batted ball luck. And then the play by Lars Nootbaar. You trade 2 outs for a run every single time in that scenario, and the Cardinals were able to do that. And then you get Gunnar Henderson, one of the top hitters in baseball this season, 5 innings allowing just 1 run from those 3 guys in the bullpen. Whether that's guy number 5, 6, and 7 on the totem pole, I don't know what the rankings would be, but they're not your top 3. And for the Cardinals to be able to do what they did, and Kyle Gibson maybe goes 6 innings, 5, 6 innings, if not for the rain delay, but that puts you into another tight spot today. The bullpen really shined through. I know we can say a lot about the offense, but what the bullpen was able to do today, that was the single most impressive win of the season by the Cardinals. Game 2 today, the finale of the series, specifically because of what the bullpen did and who within that bullpen was able to do it. And then you can think about the timely hits and the clutch offensive performances. How about Mason Wynn's home run? That was just an absolute missile that he took off the shoe tops and slapped out to left field. Ball just kept going. Just the backspin, I guess, on the ball was I've never seen a home run swing like that. Just some really great stuff by the rookie, who I know I've been seeing a lot of comments, hey, why aren't you talking about Mason Wynn, Rookie of the Year? I do think that's something that we'll get into at some point, especially now that the OPS for him is up to 780. But there's a lot of good rookies, and on the pitching side in particular, like I don't know how you stack up to Shota Imanaga and what he's been able to do for the Cubs. He's going to have to fall off a little bit. But when you talk about batting average, Mason Wynn's got it. Stolen bases, Mason Wynn's got it. He's got the Gold Glove caliber arm. Although I understand that, he's made an error here and there, but he's played some really good shortstop. He makes plays that would be very borderline, and he turns them into routine all the time. Mason Wynn is doing that. And then you see the home run power starting to show up for him. That is going to be a conversation as the season goes along. He's certainly put himself into that discussion. But let me know, Cardinals fans, hit like on this video. We've got 19 likes. I haven't asked you to like it just yet, but that's the first time I'll do so. Hit subscribe on the channel, too, if you'd like to join the live chat. And I'll make sure to prioritize the channel members as much as I can on the live chat. But certainly I'll try to get to as many of these comments as I can. Ikta commenting, saying he's first into the chat. Justin, one of our members, awesome series and what a homestand so far. Loving these Ollie ejections, brings out the fight. Yeah, what the heck is going on with that home plate umpire today? I don't know if I'd ever heard of this guy before today. Charlie Ramos, I believe is his name. That was some real unprofessional behavior, basically just scoffing and smirking at Ollie Marmol. And why does Laz Diaz, I know he's the crew chief, but why does he have to come in and basically intervene before anything really was said? Ollie's trying to talk to that guy. He's not trying to talk to you. But that's, I think, just a sign that Laz Diaz knows that this is maybe a young buck that might have a little bit of a flair for the dramatic, a little bit of a temper perhaps, and decided to kind of scoff at Ollie Marmol and basically turn away from him. Just very interesting the way that Laz Diaz felt he had to come to the rescue on that. Just very interesting. Ollie gets the ejection, obviously, early in this game. The calls were horrendous, by the way. I mean, I know I kind of made that the thumbnail picture of this live stream here. The calls were just terrible on Lars Nootbaar in that at-bat, and I think he got confirmation, Ollie Marmol did, that they weren't strikes. None of those pitches to Lars were strikes, and so he's letting him have it a little bit in that at-bat. And then Paul Goldschmidt gets one called, another 8 inches off the plate, and that was when Ollie had just had enough. Like, watching from the dugout, you're like, that's not a strike. Okay, that's not a strike. Hey, go check that out. Video room, they convert, not a strike, not even close. The K pitch on Nootbaar was not remotely near the strike zone. It had to be like 3 or 4 baseball widths away, and that might be being generous to Charlie Ramos. So, look, I think Ollie has gotten into a spot where he's not necessarily trying to do it on purpose. I think maybe the first time he sort of did was looking for a reason to get run just so that he could potentially spark something. And if I recall correctly, was that the game in Milwaukee that the Cardinals won and have gone on the 8 of 10 since then? So say what you will about that, but I think in this case it was literally this umpire was making a mockery of the sport, and he decided it's too early in game 2 for me to not say something, and my player Lars Nootbaar got run out of the first game. And like, is that the type of umpire, young, cocky, that might think, oh, this guy's going to show up, the other home plate umpire in game 1? Well, I'm going to show him in game 2. I'm going to call. Like, absolutely, that could be something that's on the mind of Ollie Marmol and the Cardinals. So Ollie says, I'm getting out in front of this. We're not losing Lars Nootbaar for a game here. and he does what he does. So I thought it was fun. I thought the Daniel Descalso little meme in the making from the dugout as Ollie is basically giving him the what for as he goes off the field. The histrionics were beautiful. I liked it. And is it sparking the Cardinals in some way? Look, I know that the jokes about how, Ollie, when he's not in the dugout, the Cardinals seem to win. That's very easy to go for those. But I also think he's doing it at certain times where maybe it needs to be done. And honestly, I don't mind it one bit. I think it's entertaining, and I think it has kind of given, maybe we don't make too much of it. Like literally an entire rain delay happened after today's ejection, right? But I also think, it's not nothing that the Cardinals have Ollie Marmol's back and he has theirs, Jennifer, welcome to the chat, says today was just so much fun. And I agree. It was fun to watch the Cardinals today. Allison says, sweep, we can finally say it. Yep, sweeps aren't that hard. Just play the Orioles. Seabulk excited for the live stream, and now here it is. Here it is. And Allison says, been looking forward to a good live chat. Yeah, it's been a little bit. But, sometimes I just don't know how many people are going to be on. You got to deal with technology. A lot going on in my world lately, but I thought tonight was an obvious night to do it after the day games to kind of check in with people on here, see where we're going. Mark says that he hopes they can keep it up. And obviously, that's going to be the question, right? Can the Cardinals sustain it? You had to do something like this. You had to do an 8 out of 10 at some point, something like it, to make up for the 7 in a row that you lost before it, right? Now they're kind of back to ground zero a little bit. They're still 3 games below the 500 mark, but you're at least within shouting distance of it, and you can sort of exhale a little bit. Like nobody's being fired tomorrow. You know what I mean? Nobody's being DFA'd tomorrow, I wouldn't think. It's a spot where the Cardinals can kind of relax a little bit. Not that they've climbed the mountain, but that they're not in dire straits where every day felt like waging a war to see if you could win a baseball game. I think that's how the fans felt watching those games when you're losing 7 in a row and you're losing to teams that you shouldn't be losing to. Now that sort of heavy, thick air is out of the clubhouse, and that's inevitable. It's not that anything was going on in there that would inspire that. It's just the results and feeling bogged down by the losses that I think becomes inevitable over time. Now that that's no longer a case, the Cardinals can feel like, hey, all right, we're back to basically level footing. Now let's keep doing the things we've been doing over this winning streak, this 8 out of 10, to be able to sustain it. I do think there are questions about the starting pitching. I'm waiting to see that first Liberatore question and what you do about the 5th spot. I'm sure it'll be in there, so we'll get to it when the chat does. But, there are a lot of things to feel very good about right now, namely the offense and the bullpen. Defense, a little bit shaky. They have had a streak now with making an error in at least one error in a number of games in a row. Kind of strange. Arenado, I don't really know. Like the Cardinals could have lost this game today, and if it was 3-0 or 3-1, we'd be talking about, I don't know what happened to Arenado on what I thought was 2 consecutive errors, and I guess one of them was ruled a base hit. I'm not really 100% sure how that happened, but the first one was ruled a hit right back to him, unable to make the transfer and start a double play or at least get the out at second. So, Mason Wynn had that the Sonny Gray day when the no-hitter was there, and then it was gone. But largely, this defense has been pretty good this year. But Mark does mention Cardinals had a similar hot streak last year and then went back to terrible play. So they do have to keep on it. Kevin says, greetings to everyone tonight. Happy first sweep day. It took them a while. I mean, with the number of chances they had, right? Seemed like a handful of series. They were coming into game 3, and they had a chance to do it. And today they finally were able to get over the hump. Justin suggests maybe just keep playing the AL East teams. I mean, pretty good to take 2 of 3 from Boston and then sweep the Orioles of all teams. I mean, that's one of the best teams in baseball. The Cardinals just not only went toe-to-toe with them, but they beat them. I mean, they beat them 3 games in a row. I don't know if the rain delays helped them, helped the Cardinals, hurt the Cardinals, whatever you would say, but they overcame some very odd obstacles in the series to be able to do what they did. Thank you guys for the likes. We're up to 36. Let's get it up to 40. Hit like on the video and subscribe on the channel. That's the way to join the live chat, is to just quickly subscribe. Daniel, what's going on? What's going on with Ace? I don't know what the Sigma means. The real Juan Wick wouldn't worry about the errors that Wynn and Otto have made. Don't have a lot of problems with that. Yeah, it's just that if it doesn't coincide with some timely hits today, you're looking at those Arenado errors and going, man, it kind of tanked the Kyle Gibson start. But ultimately, all's well that ends well, so I'd agree with you there. Mizzou, M-I-Z, 1755, wants to know where Jordan Walker plays when he comes back, and who do you sit, or you start working with him at first base. I think this notion that he can just be a first baseman because he's like a big dude is not probably very accurate. I don't know that he could play first base. I don't think he ever has. I don't know that it would just automatically be a thing. You kind of have to have good, kind of light on your feet, footwork. It's a lot about the footwork and the little things and the nuances of playing first base. It's not like you can just be an inexperienced guy over there and go over there because you can hit for power and now you're a first baseman. Like, I don't think his body type or his game defensively necessarily meshes nicely with first base. So, I mean, that is obviously a question. It could get to the point where the Cardinals make a decision to move more frequently Lars Nootbaar to center field. Like, that would obviously clear right field back up for him. It could be a case where, look, I mean, Donovan can play the infield at times and Gorman can DH, which is then going to put an extra spot out there. I don't know. Like, Burleson has got to be in your lineup, and largely he can DH. He can play some first like he did today when Goldie DH'd. There will be a spot. I'm not exactly sure whose spot it is. Like, we loved what Michael Ciani did the other day. The first home run, 4 RBIs. He kind of carried the offense. Today, just an 0 for 2. I guess I'm looking at game 2 specifically with a walk. The OPS is down in Goldschmidt territory, right? 584 for Ciani, 594 for Paul Goldschmidt. And that's not really what you want for either of them, but especially Goldie. And the thing of it is, Ciani's defense has been so sound that you want him to be in there. So I'm not exactly sure. I think it'll work itself out. It always seems to. And what they've really been waiting on Jordan Walker is the power production when he gets into the minor league setting and can start to drive the ball. I know he's been hitting for average, not a ton of power that I've seen. So it's interesting how the Cardinals are necessarily going to handle that. I do think Jordan Walker is back before too long. And I wonder if they feel compelled. I know it's kind of a low-key thing. The Star Wars theme night on June 6th, he's got a Jordan Skywalker, like a play on Luke Skywalker. There's a theme night bobblehead for Jordan Walker. And as much as that's kind of like a silly thing, I wonder if the Cardinals would prioritize having him back before then. But then it's a question of who goes, right? And they're getting production off the bench. You're not going to, Matt Carpenter's going to have his spot. You might say Brandon Crawford, but if they were going to make the Crawford move, it wouldn't be for Jordan Walker. It would be for like a Fermin or somebody that can play shortstop, you'd have to think. So for right now, it's just kind of wait and see mode when it comes to Jordan Walker. But I do think that if and when, because they are going to bring him back, when that happens, it's simply going to be a case of the answer will be probably clear enough. I see a question in here about Drew Rom. What's he up to? He's hurt, so I just don't think you're going to really see him this year. And if I recall correctly, they may have shifted him to the 60-day IL already. Ictus says, fun to finally have fun as fans. And Josh Jacobs posted an interesting question. He of Deal in the Cards pod. Is Mason Wynn becoming the new face of the franchise? Might be a little bit early to declare that he is, but he's certainly one of them, right? Like, he's one of the most marketable, one of the most entertaining, energizing players on this team, and he's backing it up with this play on the field. So certainly, like, you wouldn't be surprised to start seeing him when you think about like marketing materials and okay, who wears the City Connects when that kind of thing gets unveiled. They had a picture of Jordan Walker in one, but they weren't really able to use it. I think Mason is who posted it on his social media, so that one saw the light of day. But yeah, Mason Wynn is just a firecracker of energy and excitement for this organization. And the fact that he's hitting well and performing is everything, because, sometimes the Cardinals, they have these top prospects, they bring them up and it kind of fizzles. That's not what it's been at all for Mason Wynn. He's doing it all and not phased, right? By coming up to the leadoff spot in the second game, hitting a home run, performing offensively, 780 OPS with a 795 average, went 2 for 4 with 2 runs scored in that second game. Mason Wynn's doing it right now. We're up to, let's see, Bob Gibson likes. We want to get to 50 likes. If we get to Wayno likes on the video, would appreciate that. Trevor excited about the first sweep. Lars is getting hosed left and right. Someone saved this guy from the ump. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, that has been absolutely brutal. Jennifer saying the screen was frozen. I'll scroll down a little bit. Hopefully we're not having too many issues. Sometimes it takes a little bit to kick in on the stream, but I think now it's hopefully better. So appreciate sticking with me. Andrew, what's going on? Brendan's back. Cards are back. Let's go. Are the Cardinals back? Like, that's the question. If you're a Cardinals fan out there, are you like, is today the day that you go, oh, we're so back? Like, is that how you genuinely feel? Do you have that level of optimism? Because remember a couple of weeks ago on B-Schaeff Daily, I talked about having that moment where when Wilson Contreras got hurt and they didn't win the game that night and they blew a lead, I was like, I think I've teetered below that line. If it's a 50-50 line, I'm below 50%. I don't think as of today this team makes the playoffs. And then they went on to lose 7 in a row at one point, and obviously they were 9 games under, and that was looking pretty much like a smart statement. Well, now they've gone 8 of 10, and they're not in a playoff spot as of today. But in your mind, are you back in a place where you're like, I think this team's going to do it? They're going to find a way to sneak into the playoffs, whether that's a wild card, whether that's making a run at the division, whatever it might be. Do you believe, as of today, that the Cardinals are back? I would say the fact that you can sweep the Orioles is a big part of me feeling like they very well might be, because you're seeing almost a different version of this team. Last 10 games, last couple of weeks almost, like I said, you can look at the top 10 stats offensively. They're kind of performing as that top 10 offense, and they're doing it without Jordan Walker in the mix and without Wilson Contreras, who had been carrying this team offensively. So if all of that is possible, what if they just keep being that team? Maybe they level out in their top 12 offensively the rest of the way. And maybe a really good bullpen the rest. What Kyle Leahy is doing, what John King is doing, I just don't think you could have expected that. And it's not to say that it's going to be that way all season long, but those guys are delivering legitimate contributions right now. It's a big deal what they were able to do today when you just had no other choice but to go to them. When you have a rain delay and your starter can only go 4 as a result, you just have to go to these guys and say, all right, eat up some innings. Let's see what we got. And the Cardinals, for them to come back and win the game after that, there are just a lot of good signs right now for this team. So am I right now? I think I'm at least at that 50% line. I said on the big show today on KTGR this afternoon, I'm at 51.3%. Yes, they make the playoffs. Like, as of now, I think that's my lean. I'm back in on saying, yeah, this could very well be a playoff team, and maybe even a little more likely than not if you're going to be going to put a fine point on it. So I don't know if that ends up staying the course, but for right now, like, what the Cardinals have done with these last 10 games, if nothing else, I think, is put their fans and put the narratives around them into a spot where it's like, they're in this for the long haul for 6 months. I don't think you're going to see the Cardinals out of the race and selling at the deadline, barring a bunch of injuries, because I think the lineup is kind of the lineup. Like, guys are going to be good enough to compete. They're going to have enough days where they score 4 or 5 runs. They didn't at the beginning, but they're doing it now. The rotation may be the biggest question mark suddenly, which started the season, that wasn't the case. And you can make the case that the Cardinals did not take enough advantage of how good the rotation had been for them while it was good. And now it's kind of leveled out a little bit. You're going, man, really wish you could have picked up some of those wins when the getting was good for the starting pitching, because now you're looking at the 5th spot and going, I don't have any idea what this is going to be. And Sonny Gray has been really good, but the last few starts has not been like all-world dominant the way that he was for the beginning portion of the season. So you're kind of getting a mixed bag there in the rotation, and that could be the area where, like, as long as they're in 500 range in July, you could talk about them adding at the deadline, and I think a starter could certainly be the way you go with that. Darren, what's going on? Booyah. Michael says, good warning from sunny Taiwan. Well, that's pretty cool. Justin asked if we have a Discord up yet, and he's talking about the channel memberships. I did mention that I'll put a Discord together with that. I technically think that was for like a second tier. I don't know that anybody's joined the second tier of the Discord, of the membership on YouTube for that. But Justin, like I've said, I may just kind of have to dial that back. If anybody's just like, I'm doing the first tier, I'm not giving you more than that. I'm like, all right, that's probably reasonable. Maybe we just do a Discord for everybody, but within that, there'll be like a group chat that could be for channel members. That's sort of the way I have it envisioned, Justin. Thanks for sticking with me and being on top of that, because I do have to get that going. Brett looks forward to the insight after every game. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Brett, and thank you for being a member. Shout out to Damian as well. I believe Damian was the one who got me to do the memberships in the first place. Baby steps, we're finding ways to win. Young Core is getting it done. Plus, everybody needs to become a member on the show. B-schaeff is the man. Becoming a member is worth it. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. About the young core, I think that's really key, because when you look at the OPSs right now, they've got like 5 or 6 guys suddenly above 700 on OPS. None of them are Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. Gorman actually is, I think, above 700 now after the home run in game 1 today. He did not play in game 2. So you're seeing guys come around. Nootbaar is at 715, right? He's taking walks. He's driving the ball. The average is low. Nootbaar may be a 220, 230 hitter when it's all said and done in the big leagues. I don't know for sure. You'd like him to be more like 250, 260. But if he is, I still think you can get away with that, because he's going to take a ton of walks. And I do think he'll hit enough doubles and home runs to be, 770, 780 OPS ultimately. I don't know if he gets there this year, because he did start off pretty sluggish, but he's coming around. Burleson is doing what he's been doing at 786 on the OPS. I think you'll continue to see a little bit more from Brendan Donovan. Had a couple of RBIs today in game 2. Like, I just think you look up and down this lineup at the guys who aren't Goldie and Arenado, and you go, there's a lot of young 20-something talent in this group, and those are the guys that are getting it done right now. It's been pretty impressive. Darren commenting just to say Taiwan, nice. Yeah, Michael, that's pretty cool. I don't know how you found us from there, but appreciate that you did. Preston says, thrilled with how the Cardinals are playing, but a little cautious with getting the hopes up. With Arenado and Goldie still hitting for no power. Arenado only 3 home runs since the middle of August. Yeah, August 19th of 2023, I believe, was a home run day for Arenado, and then it was months and months and months, obviously, with the offseason, but to the early portion of this year before he finally hit one, and they're just not getting a ton from him in the power arena. Now, he is still getting a number of base hits. Today was a 2-for-4 day in game 2. He's hitting 269, but a sub-700 OPS from Arenado is just not what you come to expect from him, right? You got to see more. And what's the point in time where the Cardinals do adjust that lineup and say the best hitters are going to be in that 3-4 instead of maybe the 2 guys that are hitting among the lower level of the power production in the lineup? Maybe that's a change that can be made, or maybe you leave well enough alone just believing it's going to come around. And right now, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You've won 8 of 10. That could also be the attitude there. Tyler wants to know why they're so opposed, seemingly, to letting Fermin play shortstop. He's played it a good amount in the Cleveland system before coming here. Yeah, I think at this point, it's just a sunk cost fallacy on Brandon Crawford. It's like, look, he's a veteran player, so you want to respect that. And you brought him in for a reason, to be able to back up Mason Wynn. I think they knew that Mason Wynn had the back injury early on, and now it seems he's over that. And so the insurance policy worked as designed, but there just has not been a lot of juice from Brandon Crawford. And if you're winning, it's like, all right, why would you need to make a move? When you were losing, it was you're going to scrutinize every single thing, and even the 26th man on the roster. Fermin, I think, could give you more at the plate than Crawford. Could he give you more defensively? I don't know. Yes, he's played there at shortstop. Is he adept at it? Maybe not. But Crawford does seem a step slow. He's not, he's not moving extremely quickly. He's made a couple nice plays here and there. I'll give him that. But I mean, you can also just evaluate him on his offense at this point and say, it wouldn't take much for anybody else to be in that spot and do what he's done offensively and then outperform that. But defensively, I think what they'd be worried about is the rigors of everyday shortstop if Wynn should go down. But my counter argument would be, I would be worried about the rigors of everyday shortstop if Wynn should go down with Brandon Crawford out there, because I don't think he's the solution. And if you can envision a world in which Mason Wynn gets hurt and then Crawford's playing every day, and it doesn't sound like, and then you're thinking, oh, how do we supplement shortstop because this doesn't look viable? Then you do maybe wonder what the purpose is of his spot right now. I will say this, eventually you would think Tommy Edman's going to come back. And I know the whole thing about bringing Crawford in was so that he could play center field every day. But if they feel good about Ciani, or they just feel like, Nootbaar's going to have to play some center when Walker comes back, whatever it is, and they want to move Tommy back to that split role, he maybe has gotten Wally pipped a little bit. But I don't think you can say that by Ciani when he's still only OPSing 584. But that would obviously be a moment where somebody would have to go down or out when Tommy comes back, which I don't think is, it's not going to be this month, maybe in June, but probably that should be the timeline, but I still don't hold my breath until I see him in a rehab. I have no idea what the progress level is, right? Like, that's just a reality. So, but maybe when that happens, you have to think differently about Brandon Crawford. But until then, I just don't know that they will. I don't know that they'll spend, that's a move. That's a physical, actual move that they would have to do. And it's an uncomfortable one because you just signed this guy. And then it's basically admitting that you didn't make a very good signing when you signed him. So to think that they'll do that without there being like a catalyst for it, I don't necessarily envision, not right now. But you're right. I mean, for me, could he do what Crawford's done? Certainly, right? I think Thomas Sajaci could. I think Donovan could play some shortstop on those days, but maybe they don't want to overload him. It's more about like everyday shortstop. Crawford's done that for a decade. If push should come to shove and they need that in the organization, he might be the only guy that has that makeup in the entire org. So yeah, get some shortstops. I mean, have a depth plan. Although Mason Wynn's 22 years old, whatever he is, and probably could end up being that guy for a long time. So maybe no major issues as long as he stays healthy. Jennifer, appreciate you, Jennifer, because she chimed in with a super chat. But she's already part of the B-Schaeff Daily gang when it comes to membership. But her chat is simply, y'all need to join the membership, the B-Schaeff Daily game. All the cool kids are doing it. I do think the cool kids are doing it. But if you want to know, I don't even know if the link is in this description. Every other video it is. So check it out. And if you're inclined to do so, that's something. And we'll continue to add different perks. I think it's cool, like the badges. What I'd like to do with that is add some custom emojis and some custom badges as well. That would be something good. Allison wants to know about Patreon. Yeah, there will be some stuff on Patreon, Allison, but you're right. I have been prioritizing the YouTube much more. I would definitely say you might get more value out of it, Allison, that way. But I can actually send you a message and talk with you about that. Appreciate you for sticking with Patreon, because I sort of had that as like, hey, I don't know how much is going to go on here, but if you want to support the channel and stuff, that's a way to do that. And then I didn't even really know about memberships on YouTube, but it's a lot more fun and interactive. People are having fun with that on YouTube. So I think that's kind of maybe the way to go with it. So I have to sort of evaluate that. The white Ford sign in right probably helped. I don't know if I saw the white the Ford sign. I'm not sure if I get it, Dale. Will Libby stay in the rotation, or do I see the role shifting? Yeah, let's get into that. I thought it would be a minute before we got that comment, but we finally did. He's going to pitch Saturday, I think, because if you saw the reports from the ballpark earlier today, he was throwing that bullpen session as the starters tend to do, however many days it is ahead of their bullpen or ahead of their start, I should say. So to me, it's a spot where he's going to be in there once again. The Cardinals, and I've talked about this on B-Schaeff Daily, but the Cardinals have not put him in a position to succeed with this. When you're trying to build him up on the fly, it's like, how can you expect a guy not to basically be pulled after 3 or 4 innings when you know he's got a pitch count? You can't do double jeopardy and hold that against him when it was a known factor coming in and you're imposing the pitch count limits. So that's part of it, and it's more difficult to be able to have a positive impact as a starter on a pitch count, especially when you run into some early trouble. Like, think about the game where Kyle Gibson gave up 6 runs in the first. If he had a pitch count, we would be looking at that outing and saying he killed the bullpen. It was terrible. It had an impact for days. Instead, he pitched 6 innings because he was able to. He was built up as a starter, and Liberatore is not. Now, Saturday, he should be up to like 80 pitches. Like, take the training wheels off a little bit if you're going to allow this to play out and continue to hamstring the bullpen when you do that as well. Like, the best case scenarios in these games is admittedly going to hamstring the bullpen. And I think they've been sort of piggybacking Kyle Leahy and saying, well, if he gives you a couple, that's basically just as good. But Kyle Leahy is part of the bullpen. Like, that's a guy that has to pitch that then is unavailable the next day because he was used for that spot. So I think it was a bad move the way that they did it, but now you may be to a point where Libby's up to 80 pitches, so can it be fine? Now, is he competitive as a starter is a different question, more than just like is he built up? Because with Jordan Hicks, it was like every time the Cardinals would try and do that starter thing for him, he wasn't built up. They were doing it on the fly, and then they would hold it against him when he wasn't efficient and say, oh, that can't work in the rotation. Well, yeah, but you also had him on a 75 pitch count. Like, that's not going to work either. And now Jordan Hicks, we all know what he's doing with the Giants. Liberatore is the same. I feel the same about it, but I also feel differently in that if you look at the splits, Liberatore is allowing like a 1,044 OPS to righties, and he's been absolutely dominating lefties. Like, if that's just going to be his splits makeup where he has trouble getting righties out, his pitch mix maybe just doesn't allow for it. And maybe that's simply because as a starter, he's going 92, 93 instead of 96. But those splits are for the full season, not just when he's been starting. He's been getting killed by righties. And if you're a starting pitcher, the other lineup can be all righties if it wants to be. And that's something that you have to contend with. There's really no easy outs if you're Libby in that spot. I mean, it's an MVP caliber hitter every time a righty steps into the bat against Liberatore this year. That's just been what it is. So that is a reason that long-term I could understand questioning whether or not he would be able to do it, to be able to start in this league. But also, I just don't think we can definitively make that decision based on what we've seen here. Because, again, if you're starting him and then 3 days later you're going to have him pitch in relief, and then 3 days later he's going to be starting again, which is technically short rest, it's just too much. Why is it that they feel compelled to do that with Liberatore instead of just do what any other team you would think would do, which is call up your next starter because you have starting depth in the rotation throughout your organization for a reason. You have multiple guys on the 40-man roster that should be able to make a spot start. And the fact that they have been so reluctant to make a move, it's like they don't want to make roster moves, and as a result, they have to just go, well, what do we have lying around that we could turn into a starter? Maybe it's not that simple, and I'm making it sound more simplistic than it is, but it just is a very bizarre set of circumstances that has led to this. Now, if Libby goes out and shoves on Saturday, we're going, see, hey, do that again. And maybe you can last in the rotation. But until we see it a little more consistently, those questions are going to exist. I just don't know how fair it is to expect it to happen with consistency when the Cardinals came into this and he wasn't built up to start. So I don't know what the indictment, though, is of your pitching depth when you say this guy that we're kind of admitting we'd rather be in the bullpen, we're going to keep starting him because we don't like our other options any better. Now, is that fair to the other options? I don't know. It's not that they're lighting it up in AAA, but it's almost like even if they were, like Sim Roberso was for a while, but they didn't feel compelled to bring him up, and maybe they're right. Maybe his stuff won't translate. Maybe he's not ready. But at the same time, that is why you have a minor leagues, and especially AAA. That rotation needs to be ready-made guys able to pitch a hand if they need to lend a hand. And the Cardinals have several of them on the 40, and yet they're still kind of doing the Liberatore thing, which may work out, but I just don't like the way they've approached it. Brett asking, when and how do the Cardinals get Walker on the 26 again? Can't send down Ciani. No, Ciani's here to stay. Like Carlson, I mean, hey, man. And Carlson looked a little better. He had that sliding catch today that wasn't a catch. The ball bounced, but I thought his glove was underneath it, which technically, like, your glove does not have to be closed as long as it stays in the air. I thought they should have been able to. I don't know if that was reviewable. I know they talked it over. I thought that was honestly a catch, but I can understand that because it looked like, and it did, it bounced off the ground, but I also thought you could see leather underneath. Enhance the video, and you'll see the truth. But like, I just don't feel like they would send Carlson down. The bench, the roster redundancies in the bench, it doesn't make a lot of sense, and they could have to contend with that when they get fully healthy. Because remember, not quite out of spring, but early in spring, after Carpenter signed, and I think this was even before Brandon Crawford, but especially when Crawford signed, it was like, hey, so Burleson's not on this team, right? And Mosaic was like, well, that's kind of silly. Why would we talk about that yet? There's any number of things that could happen. And sure as shooting, all of them happened. And Burleson was not only on this team, but now he's hitting in the middle of the lineup every day because guys got hurt. Things happen. But when all those guys come back, all right, he's not the guy going down. So are some of your roster redundancies going to have to be reconsidered? Like, it's interesting. It's an interesting question when you're getting very little value from multiple bench spots right now. Carpenter, Brandon Crawford, and then like Ciani, I do think will provide value. I'd rather have him on that bench because he can steal you a base late if he's going to pinch run. He can play good defense late in games. Like, that's what winning teams have, is guys like Ciani coming off the bench. I just don't know about starting him every day, but Carlson was kind of the other center field option. Tommy Edman was kind of the other center field option, and those guys are either hurt or not performing. So that then means Carlson is sort of a redundancy where it's like the role that you'd be asking him to fill, which is just out-hit Ciani and play defense as well as him, he's not been able to do. So Ciani's getting the gig, and he's earned the opportunity. But does that change when an Edman comes back, et cetera? So, Brett, it's a tough question as far as Jordan Walker is concerned. He's going to find his way back on, though. I think it'll be the same answer that it was with Burleson in spring. Like, well, what's going to happen? Is he going to be, well, something's going to happen, and there'll just be a spot. That's usually the way that it goes. Soley had mentioned the Ollie ejections galvanized a little support from his Cards group. Do you think it's firing up the players or just something that gets fans excited? And I don't even know if it gets fans excited, because I've seen some people say they only win because he's getting ejected. He's not in the dugout. He can't mess things up, which is just hilarious because it's so, and I'm not trying to be rude to people, but it is like off base as to how things work in there, but that's fine. I understand it. No, I mean, I think the players have always had Ollie's back, and they're probably, if anything, maybe a little bit relieved to see that, like, all right, we're not going to cost this guy his job in the next day or two. Like, because for a minute there, I swear to you, that's how it felt. And obviously they were on the road, so I wasn't covering it, and that was when I was at a wedding. So I also had like FOMO, but in a way of like, I don't want to be missing this because it would just be kind of rough professionally if they fire him and I'm at a wedding, which happened. That's how, when Matheny got fired, I was at a wedding. This time I was a best man in a wedding, way far from home. So I was glad that the Cardinals won that last game. I was back by then, but it really felt like throughout the weekend, I'm like, they are struggling. Can they find a win to just like, not because I'm like, go Cardinals, like I'm rooting the team on. Like I've told people, not really a Cardinals fan. I cover the team now. It's a different role. But I will openly tell you, I wanted to see him win a game, because if they would have fired him when I was really, really busy writing a best man speech, I was like, that's going to be a problem. So But no, I mean, I think he's done a nice job. And like when you talk about management, like what are the things that he has an actual tangible impact on? It's bullpen management. I would venture to say that Ollie Marmol is a better bullpen manager than either Mike Matheny or Mike Schilt. And I don't think Schilt was bad at it. I think Ollie Marmol was really good at it. But that's something that only shows when you have days like today. And on days where whatever reliever he brings in, which there's a process behind, but all we see is the result. That guy gives up a bomb. Oh, he's a big doofus. How could he possibly have gone to that reliever? I know that's the way that narratives form. I'm telling you, just it's stacking up that he's just doing a really, really good job managing the bullpen lately. That's all there is to it. And any manager is going to look better when his relievers actually do their job and get outs. Sometimes it's a simple game that way, isn't it? Caleb, what's going on? B-Schaeff After Dark, indeed. Spencer, love to see the rain delay finally work in the Cardinals' favor. Finally, more people can have somewhat of a more positive outlook. Yeah, I think people are excited. I think people are happy. I think people are feeling good. Predict the record, though. Like I said, do you think the Cardinals are back, or is that a little bit of a premature comment? 65 likes is sick. Let's get to Mark McGwire, 70 home runs. 70 likes. We can do it. Darren says the Newt catch was huge. Top 5 at season's end. Yeah, that could be one of the top 5 moments of the season if this season turns into something for the Cardinals. Like, I mean, it was just one of those deals where you had been using your second string relievers. You got great work from John King. You got what you needed to get from Kyle Leahy. And then Fernandez is, he's probably like your 4th or 5th best option in the bullpen. So he's your closer today. And that's a bona fide save situation. And your top 3 relievers that would normally do it are unavailable because they pitched literally already that same day. And it was just like, it felt like it was getting away from him. Wasn't throwing as many strikes as you want to see early. Seeing eye singles to the right side of the infield. And then you give up the big hit, the extra base hit that Nootbaar just says, nope, not today. And then you take advantage of Cedric Mullins. I don't know where he was. I think he thought, I'm tying this game up. And instead he was out. And that made you at least exhale a little bit with Gunnar Henderson up, because he could with one swing of the bat change a game. And you get that grounder up the middle, Mason Wynn, gold on it. I mean, that was impressive work by the bullpen, but the Nootbaar catch sells it. I mean, it doesn't happen without that. Spencer says to check out Ciani's outs above replacement. Interesting. I wonder if this is going to be a very positive note on Ciani or a negative one. I'd have to think positive, because other than when he threw to the wrong base this afternoon, which was right after those Arenado errors, I thought, man, Ciani's been really good out there. And sure as shooting, here it is, outs above average on Baseball Savant. Marcus Semien has 12, leads all of baseball. Dalton Varsho, how about that, in center field, has 8. Bobby Witt Jr. has 8, and Michael F. Ciani has 7. He's tied for 4th in baseball. Has a 94% success rate, whatever that means, which is, right up there in the top 10 in baseball as well. Pretty good defensive center fielder. If he could just OPS 650, right? Because he's at 584 right now. If he could just OPS 650, I think you would have a guy that, look, is he 10 to 15% below league average offensively? Sure, but he's the best defensive center fielder. Like, those things matter, but to a point. It was the same thing with Victor Scott, where you're like, all right, he's really good in the outfield. I get it. He can steal you a base. He's really fast, but he's hitting 90. Like, he's hitting 088. That's not really sustainable. So there does have to be a balance to it. But Michael Ciani's like right there on the borderline of feeling like, yeah, you can plug him into number 9 and just let him go for a full season. And if he's the only guy in your lineup that's below league average, then so be it. He's probably saving your pitchers runs on a daily basis. Jennifer says Gorman is out to prove the naysayers wrong. Yeah, look, Nolan Gorman is like, he's probably going to be okay. It feels bleak when he has the run like he had at the beginning of a season instead of like in the middle, where you can remember the good times from earlier. He started that way this year, so it was a little bit difficult to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But, I mean, he's still leading the team in home runs. He's just got to do that every 2 or 3 days, and everything else is going to work itself out. He can strike out 200 times. He can have empty calories other than the homers, but that's still going to provide enough value that you're not going to mind him. Now, is that going to make him the ultimate, perennial all-star, number 3, number 4 hitter in your lineup that you feel good about? Maybe not. Maybe he doesn't descend to that, but he could be number 5, number 6, number 7. And how many teams have a number 7 hitter that can get you 30 plus bombs? Not a bunch of them do. So there's still utility to Gorman, but he's going to be hot cold. I think, and I hate to like typecast a guy when he's still so young, but he's probably just going to be hot cold, and maybe you live with that. Again, the young players for the Cardinals finally stepping forward. Nootbaar. Obviously, Nolan Gorman stepping up the way he has. Mason Wynn. If you can get Jordan Walker going, this thing suddenly has a very different feel to it. Alec Burleson, still pretty young guy as well. So, number of young players that are carrying the load right now. Imagine if Arenado, Goldie step back into their shoes and become themselves again. I mean, that in conjunction with the other things going on with this lineup, that's where you can look up and go, now, wait a minute. You get a piece in the rotation, you get a piece here. They might be something special. But those things have to actually happen. Those are still question marks because to this point, Arenado and Goldie have not consistently demonstrated that power. So we're still waiting to see it. Jared says, I guess it's going to rain 5 days from yesterday, wherever Lynn is going to be pitching. Is that not 3 or 4 rain games for him? What luck. Yeah, and this one was like, I was thinking, at least he got through 6, so it's not really that big of a deal. And then I looked up his pitch count. I'm like, well, shoot, it is kind of a big deal. He could have gone 8. So, and it was funny to see him do a post-game interview today after game 1 when he didn't actually pitch today, but he had to talk about yesterday's game. So kind of interesting there. But yeah, I mean, he pitched really well. Lance Lynn, he had the stuff. Like, he was spotting up every pitch. Guys were off balance. That's Lance Lynn when he's at his best. And it's a shame he wasn't able to keep going in that game because of the postponement. But you're right, Jared. It just happens every time to him. Trevor says STL is hot, but cannot imagine they'll win the Shota game on Friday. But that's not their fault. The guy is a dog. Yeah, Shota Imanaga, he's good. He's really good. And the Cardinals should have signed him. I mean, just think about Shota in the 5 spot right now. That would be enough for me to say this team is a World Series contender. You know, barring everything else, like, again, that all has to stay where it's been. Like, the offense keeping it up. But if you had Imanaga, who's got like a 0.8 ERA, the Cardinals certainly have, like, instead of that 5th spot, which was Zach Thompson, then it was Matz, now it's Libby. The Cardinals probably have 5 extra wins. Maybe they're not a World Series contender, but put it this way. I feel very much better about them making the playoffs if they had a guy like Imanaga as their 5. And then more so where I said World Series contender was as a team that gets into October right now, let's say the Cardinals get in. Like, let's allow that. Let's go there in our minds. What are they doing when they get there? Probably not much. You got Sonny Gray and pray for rain, right? Lance Lynn, maybe, like Kyle Gibson, but you need maybe a little more than that in terms of a 1-2 punch. Sonny Gray, Imanaga 1-2 punch, I think, would be the type that would get people on board going, all right, let's see. Like, this team could maybe do something when they get in. C. Ramirez wants to get Goldie going. No kidding. Craig says he's sorry for being late. Happy sweep day. And wants my predictions for the Cubs series. Well, let me pull up, and lots of questions. You guys are doing amazing. If I don't get to your comments, I do apologize. Trying to prioritize members, trying to prioritize as well the super chats. So appreciate that, but I will try to get to as many of these comments as I can. We'll keep it to about an hour 15 tonight, though, on the stream. Where are we at? We're at 51 minutes. We'll go to like an hour 15, hour 20 is kind of tentatively where I'm hoping to go tonight. Friday, let's look at the estimated pitching matchups. Well, there's nothing on MLB.com for the Cubs. So that was fun. Michaelis, though, is going to go for the Cardinals on Friday. Look, the Cubs, man, they've got a good rotation going, right? I haven't checked up like exactly with what all these guys are doing. We know Imanaga. We've talked about him. Justin Steele's been getting knocked around a little bit, so maybe he's the guy that you can get to if they happen to see him in this series. But they're a good team. I mean, their record is good. They're young players. Like, they've made some savvy trades. Guy like Michael Busch could be kind of in that category, probably above Mason Wynn right now for Rookie of the Year. Although I didn't see what Michael Busch did today, but his 779 OPS from before today is a point lower than what Mason Wynn is right now. So maybe I spoke too soon. But like, they've got some young contributions, some veteran contributions. Cubs are going to be interesting. Friday is also Joe Buck, Chip Carey night on Bally Sports. I cannot wait. Like, I'll be covering Friday night's game at Busch. I'm going to have the MLB TV or whatever on my computer with headphones in because I want to hear what the conversations are like for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. But, yeah, I mean, this is 2 of 3. Like, that's really what you're looking for, right? That's the main thing that you're looking to see is 2 of 3, continue this momentum. Thank you to Hunter. He's a new member to the B-Schaeff Daily Gang. It literally popped up on my screen. It said, member, welcome to B-Schaeff Daily Gang. I don't know why I called it that. I just think it's funny. But thanks, Hunter, my man. Appreciate you. But yeah, 2 of 3. I'm going to say the Cardinals find a way to do it. And that's maybe like Saturday is going to be tough. Liberatore is going to have to show something. Liberatore's going to have to show something. And if he can't, then it could be a long day Saturday. But I'm going to say the offense can get to these Cubs pitchers a little bit. That's really what it's going to come down to. Can the offense sustain the top 10 play that it's had over the last couple of weeks? If so, you probably win 2 of 3. You're going to want to get Friday. And like we can diagnose a little bit Miles Mikolas, because if you look at his overall numbers, you're not enthused. 5.77 ERA. All right, that's a concern. We kind of have a feeling of what his season's been like, and it feels kind of like that. The whip is super high, allowing a ton of hits, walking some guys here and there, but the base hits has really been the bugaboo. Only 2 hits against Boston, though. So it's like our season low by far. 5 innings, 1 run. I know that's not the innings eater version of Miles Mikolas that you kind of expect, but they'll take 5 innings, 1 run compared to what they've been getting, especially if you now have a little more trust in a John King and a Leahy and some of these guys in your bullpen in that second tier, that second string. You can get away with 5 innings and 1 run a lot of times if you're Miles Mikolas. And, of course, it was the solo shot. He gives up 1 solo shot every game, it seems. But, if he can go out and go 5-1 on Friday night, I bet you the Cardinals win. I think I have enough confidence in the bullpen and where the offense is at right now to make that comment. So we'll see if he's able to keep it up, but that's really what it's going to boil down to. Brett says, I know this probably won't happen, but are there any free agent pitchers available, potential trades the Cardinals can make to solidify the one glaring issue right now, which is the rotation? And they'll still think about Steven Matz. I think you might, don't want to hurt the guy's feelings, but also if this team feels like it could make a move to get a bona fide for that 5th spot, I think you do need to consider doing that. And Matz can be a bullpen guy if he needs to be, right? Maybe a little bit bloated on the contract. Maybe he's just out there for long relief, and that's not an ideal role, but then when a starter gets hurt, Matz goes back in because he's still somewhat built up. And Matz is a decent pitcher when he's healthy. It's just been mostly about health. At sometimes it's been about performance, but it's largely health when it comes to Steven Matz and kind of the way that people have angst about him. But yeah, I think that if the Cardinals are in that 500 range coming into July, yes, starting pitcher will be on the table in terms of a trade. Is there any stopgap move, though, you can make in the short term? Brad Keller was DFA'd by the White Sox. I don't know if that gets anybody excited, but that's the kind of tier I think you'd be talking about. Personally, and I said this earlier tonight when I recorded Low-Hanging Fruit with Charlie Marlowe, which you guys should all go listen to right after you're done with this on his YouTube channel. But I kind of think Zach Greinke off the street would be a lot of fun because, of course, it kind of feels like there was always that rivalry with him and didn't really like the Cardinals. Kind of a different sort of dude, speaks his mind, says what he thinks. Honestly, I would be intrigued to see Sonny Gray and Zach Greinke on the same roster. If anybody knows offhand, has that ever happened? I'm trying to rack my brain to think if they've ever been on the same team. I don't believe so. Looking at Greinke's Royals, Milwaukee, obviously he was good with Milwaukee there for a minute. Dodgers, I don't think they've ever been on the same team. So that would be kind of an interesting just personality pairing. But the one reason is that I think they should do the Zach Greinke thing, and the reason I bring him up, he's been throwing like at a high school or something, like trying to keep sharp. He's 21 strikeouts short of 3,000. Like, I don't know if you would have known that without me just telling you. Zach Greinke is like right there on the cusp of 3,000 Ks. How funny would it be for him to hit that milestone as a Cardinal of all teams? I think he should sign anywhere. Like, and he's not the type. He doesn't care. I bet he doesn't care. But, like, I would be looking up the White Sox. I'd be looking up any team and telling my agent, like, give me a job somewhere just so I can get the number. 21 strikeouts, and to be a 3,000 K guy is a pretty big milestone. Just my take. But it would be just like John Lester getting career win number 200 in a Cardinal uniform. Just like one of those weird quirks of late career free agency and stuff like that. I would think it would be funny. Anyway, I guess technically Lester was a trade acquisition, but still. Scrolling down. Need to sign the bullpen to long-term deals. That's what Jared says. I don't really agree with that because I think the moment you do is when they stop being good. And it's not to like be flippant or make light of relievers who do such a great job. But as a position, generally, it's very fickle. Relievers are good one year and the next year they're bad. So that's why normally I'm not in favor of multi-year deals for relievers. Ryan Helsley is the one that we're going to have to talk about. And I think it all depends on what this team is. If they're competitive this year and they're trying to be competitive next year, you keep him, and then you do consider what an extension looks like, but it's going to be pricey. Or you just let it go all the way to when he's a free agent and see what the market offers him and try to match it, but know that you want to keep him. Or maybe you let it play out, and heaven forbid he gets hurt, because pitchers do. Then maybe you save yourself there and say, all right, what could a reworked contract look like if you're dealing with a long-term injury, that sort of thing. So that's sort of how I feel about relievers. I don't think you're like eager to extend JoJo Romero, Kittredge. You're probably just looking at that and saying, as a JoJo goes through ARB, you keep paying him because he's worth it. Maybe a team option in there somewhere, but you don't have to go crazy on reliever contracts. Just my opinion. And Kevin says that Fernandez is the closer of the B team. I kind of like that. And he was. Like, I legitimately was wondering, I'm like, who's going to come out of that bullpen for the ninth? And then I kind of figured Fernandez would be it. But even seeing him, it was like, okay, this is where they are. They're going with it. And that's another thing of like Keenan Middleton, that would have been his spot. Getting him back, this Cardinal bullpen could be like lethal. Like, I didn't see Kyle Leahy coming. I'm going to be honest with you. I did not see Kyle Leahy coming. We saw him briefly last year, and I was you look at his numbers in AAA. I'm like, this guy might not have it. You know what I mean? And he's done a nice job. 4.26 ERA, so it's not like he's over the moon, but he's done a nice job. John King has done a nice job. 2.13 ERA. Since coming back, he's been good. And he wasn't even bad the first time. He just gave up a very prominent home run against the Dodgers in that first series, and people didn't like it. Brandon says the weather has been more of a damper on the bullpen than Gio. Well, yeah, because Gio's, not currently in it. But the weather has hurt him because the starters could be going multiple innings deeper, and they haven't been able to because of rain. If Libby is announced for the starter in a couple of days, what will be my reaction? My reaction is, I know. Yeah, he is starting Saturday. They haven't announced it. Unless they get Brad Keller off the scrap heap, I think he's starting because he threw a bullpen like he was going to start. So that seems to be the tentative plan. I guess it's not been announced, but I think so. I think it's what you're getting. So I won't be surprised, Michael, but I also would say, what happens next? Like, if he's bad again, or maybe only, throws 73 pitches and is ineffective and only gets through 4, is there a conversation at some point that gets had? Is fair to ask, right? And maybe that's not even asking it pointedly enough. Can they just find out who from AAA can come up and do the job? My honest opinion is that Palante would not be a crazy way to go. He's walking a ton of guys down there, but I think that might just be like a weird AAA strike zone quirk. He does sometimes put guys on, but he also has a double play ball with the pitch low in the zone that can get out of those jams. So I don't mind it. We've seen it at the big league level, been a couple years, but Palante was able to at least kind of hold his own. And right now, if you're talking about that number 5 spot, you're looking for 5 innings, 3 runs. Who can give you 5 and 3? That's who you put into the spot. And that's sort of where I am on Palante. Like, honestly, you could probably do a lot worse for guys that could get you like a really good shot at 5 and 3. He might not ever give you 7 and 1, and Liberatore on his best day has got the upside to do that. But we're also not seeing Liberatore on his best day right now. He's got to just throw 95 as a starter. I don't know how simple that is to just like channel, but it seems like he's always conserving stuff because he thinks he's got to get deeper into the game as a starter, when in reality, you need to throw your stuff, and if they pull you after 4, they pull you after 4, but make it 4 innings of your best stuff. Jennifer says crispy. Yeah, the Cardinals, when it comes to Cardinals RISP, it's been going a little bit better recently, hasn't it? I'm curious on this as I open up another tab on my computer. I got to try to keep the tabs down because if I don't, I've noticed that the stream starts to go on the fritz, which is not what you want. But I am curious where the Cardinals rank now in terms of batting average with runners in scoring position, because for the longest time, it was kind of ugly. And they were literally last in baseball, hitting like 191. So let's check in on that. Cardinals with runners in scoring position, team batting average. They are 27th in baseball at 214. So they have jumped up from 30th, which is where they had been. A lot more palatable. Not a ton, but a little bit. The OPS, they're 28th. So they've just been getting singles, I guess, because their OPS was actually higher than that, and their average was last. And now their OPS is a little bit lower. But that's all right. I mean, they've got time to come out of it. Darren has thoughts on Goldie. Everyone pitching him outside and off the plate. They figured something out about him. I've never seen him flag at outside pitches like that. Lower back or eyes, something's going on. Yeah, there does seem to be a book out on him, man, and throw him stuff out of the zone and make him extend, and he has not been able to do it. Yep. Hopefully it's not just like the decline and he's hit the cliff and he's off the edge, but something, man. We'll see something. Chris thought that my work here deserves more than 20 likes, so thank you. Now we're up to 74. That tells me how far behind I am on the comments. Gee whiz. People are sleeping on Siani, according to Spencer. He and Burleson are your favorite players to watch now, plus win. Yeah, man. I mean, we've talked about him. I think you just want to see more OPS, but defensively, he is a dude. I mean, he really is. And a nice guy, too, and good talker. Media likes good talkers. He talked for like 10 minutes at his locker that night that he had the home run. He was great. Kim says, things coming together. Only wish is they'd gotten 2 Sonny Grays with Lynn, Gibson, Miles, and then the good bullpen. That's the complaint. Yeah, people wanted a secondary ace, like a 1B to go with Sonny's 1A, and maybe they get one at the deadline. But if they don't, like, I could see that being sort of an impediment when you get into October. Like, okay, you've made it. Now what? Maybe Kyle Gibson can buck up and be a dude in a playoff series, but I could also see you wishing you had another bona fide when you get into that. But you got to get there first, right? I know people don't like lowering their hopes and dreams and expectations to say, oh, I just hope they make it and get in. But at the same time, it's, they didn't get in last year. They lost 91 games. So Korn likes my haircut, but says he's upset that he missed the start. Yeah, the haircut story is so good. I showed Jeff Jones. There's a picture of me at the barbershop. I got it done before the wedding that I was in a couple of weekends ago in New Jersey. And the haircut was not going to work. It was like I had like a hard line here and it was very pronounced. And I think he like painted it a darker color. It was very different. I took a picture and I was talking to my buddy while the other groomsman was getting his haircut. And I was like, I don't think I can, this isn't right? He's like, well, it's not really the way you would normally style your hair. I was like, okay. I had to tell this poor dude who was like, these pictures may be out there somewhere because he had like the Instagram ring light and everything and was like taking pictures and spinning me around, like throwing baby powder in the air like LeBron. He was so excited about this haircut. And I was like, I look like Frankenstein's monster. I don't know how to tell this guy that. And it was the most uncomfortable thing that I've ever done because I had to sit there and go, hey man, I know I'm like, it's not my turn anymore, but do you think you could like fix this? It's like, what do you mean? It was so uncomfortable, but ultimately he did a great job. I tell them high fade instead of mid fade now. That's what we learned because I absolutely almost had to do a best man speech looking like Frankenstein's monster. It was some tough moments waiting for that guy to fix it. Anyway, the ump calls in this series bring you back to the 96 LCS. That's what Darren says. The over the 3 final games, the Braves pitchers were getting the strike calls 2 feet off the plate while the Cardinals pitchers had a tight zone. Yeah, but that 96 Braves team, and again, I was 2 years old at the time, so probably not really an authority on the 96 Braves, but I also know that the Braves in the mid-90s were dominant in their rotation. I want to see 96 who their top guys were. Obviously, like Smoltz and Glavine were probably there, Greg Maddux, so those were the 3. And in a playoff series, it's really all you need. They had Jason Schmidt, 23-year-old Jason Schmidt at the time, give him a 6.75 ERA in 96, started 11 games. That's super funny. I don't know if I ever would have been able to tell you that he was ever on the Braves because it was 95, 96, the only 2 years, and he was traded midseason. That's super funny. And then Jason Schmidt, a bunch of years later was like, he didn't win a Cy. He finished second for one. Anyway, 96 Braves, yeah, that trio, you'll never see a trio that good again, I don't think, in a rotation and ever. And if you've got one that you would submit, I would say, I don't know, man, let's check the stats because they were all sub-3 ERAs, all through 35-plus starts, all 235 or more innings. I mean, those guys were ridiculous. Maybe somewhere along the line there's been something better, but that takes the cake. Brett says it did take a suspending and a delayed game to do it, but I still cannot believe the Cardinals ended up being the team to end Adley and Orioles' insane no-sweep streak. Yeah, 2 years to the day, basically. They posted a tweet, or somebody did, Birdland or something, posted a tweet on the 21st, which was yesterday, that said, yeah, it's been 106 consecutive series, no sweeps for the Orioles. 2 years, happy anniversary. Yeah, happy anniversary. The Cardinals said, I'll take that. I mean, that's impressive. And yeah, suspended games, delayed games. But Brett, the Orioles had to play under the same circumstances, man. So I'm impressed by what it was just impressive. I don't think I've been as impressed by a day of Cardinal baseball as today, all year long. And they've had some good games. I know it doesn't feel that way, but they have. Today was very impressive. Just so many different angles to it. Clutch hitting, bullpen. I mean, those are the things, defense. I guess maybe I'm overselling it a little bit because I would say the defense was a little bit disappointing at times. But then there's Lars Nootbaar making up for some errors. I mean, not his error, but other people's errors. Just really good stuff. Good question here by Allison. It's a housekeeping question. If a manager gets thrown out of a game, does that game still count for a win or loss for them? I think the answer is yes. Yes is the answer. And even if it's like a suspension, I still think the answer is yes. Like, bench coach serves because the manager got thrown out of a game and then he punched the umpire in the face, so he's got a 10-game suspension. It might be more than 10 games if he did that. But I still think it goes under the manager. I could be wrong about that one, but I'm pretty sure. But definitely when you're ejected, it just goes under the manager. Otherwise, Turner Ward would have a win too. Because that one game, Ali went and so did Double D. So Turner was like doing the managing. Sam says, what do we do with Tommy Edman? Seems to me we're poised to make a trade at the deadline with some pieces. I don't see it that way, Sam, simply because Edman's not here. Anything you get from him in the first half of the season remains a bonus. I said that in late February, I want to say. Well, maybe not late February. Late March, I said that, and I still believe it to be true. So you're not really angling to make a trade thinking about what it'll be like when Edman gets back until Edman gets back. And if that happens, maybe that's just the depth piece that allows your bench to be a little stronger. Because right now it's Crawford, it's Carpenter, it's, you got a third catcher. Or now you don't, but you will have. Well, maybe not. You did for a while. It doesn't matter. I think Tommy Edman, you're just waiting to have him back, and that will decide what you do beyond that. Until then, I don't think you can really make any determination. Because is he back in June, July? When does that happen? Nato looks uninspired. Anyone else think that? I don't know if that's a fair characterization, but it looked a little off today. I'll admit that defensively. Just, but there are so many games and so many plays throughout a season that I don't want to go too crazy talking about just two of them and say, this is what it is and this is the problem, because I think he's going to be fine, ultimately. Just be glad that the offense had the clutch hitting that they did to come out and ensure that didn't end up costing him today. Like, that's what was impressive to me. Like, Gibson had no earned runs, so his ERA is back down below 4, but only goes 4 because of the which also pitch count was up to 84, but the rain delay basically made sure he couldn't come out for the 5th. But that's just a bummer because he was having a pretty nice game, and I can almost wholeheartedly put that inning on Arenado because it's 2 plays that would have been outs, and there would have not been any chance to score all those runs. And you don't throw as many pitches, which ultimately didn't matter because he would have been out after the same number of innings anyway, other than just like the minor time differential of when the rain arrived and the innings over quicker, so the game moves quicker. But yeah, I mean, that's what was just a bummer about it. But, he goes 2 for 4 still at the plate. You're still seeing some good things in terms of batting average from Arenado. And, they're in a spot that they're in. I just, the defense thing you do kind of wonder about a little bit, but I think it's going to be fine. I know what I was trying to look up. I kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. In my head, there was a home run that happened before Wynn's home run in game 2, but I must have just been thinking of game 1. Anyway, these live streams, they're not all going to be winners. That was a moment where I just lost my head. We'll move on to Kevin's comment. Glad we swept a good team. It's less easy to dismiss. Yeah, a lot of people would say, oh, yeah, sure, you beat the Angels. All right, show me when you really beat somebody. You sweep the Orioles. There's really no denying what you did was impressive, Spencer thinks that the delays had more of an impact on the Orioles than the Cardinals because the starter was lights out. Yeah, maybe. That's fair. I guess that's fair. Biggest testament to the team is how they're playing with Goldie and Arenado still struggling for power. And Sam just said struggling in general, but I think for power is the specific aspect that you should put on that because Goldie is struggling in general. Arenado still has, 269 is not an otherworldly batting average, but it's more than passable. Like, I don't care if that's his batting average. 269 could be fine if he's on base 340 and slugging 510, but he's not doing those other things. So that's where the problems come in. Someone asked about Jaywalk in Memphis. I'm not going to look up if they played tonight and what he did, but he was 300 batting average, 359 on base, and a 400 slug before tonight. But still looking for that first home run as of last night. So, yeah, still a ways to go in terms of power, but maybe he just is the guy he is, and heck, wouldn't mind seeing him in this lineup and being part of the fun, because sometimes being part of a vibe that's going better can drive you to go better. And I think Jordan Walker, like, he did it for a full year last year. I know there was a little stint in Memphis in between, but his numbers were his numbers. At the end of the year last year, they were very good. So I'd like to see Walker back sooner than later, but I also understand that they're trying to find the right balance. And as Darren mentioned, I think Arenado's just unhappy with himself. Yeah, I think he wears it a little bit too hard. We can be honest. We know, we've seen it from him, but he also just really wants to win. And, when the team's not winning and you're kind of part of the reason, then that's going to have a guy as intense as Arenado in a certain mood, right? So, but then again, like, your intensity, you'd want to have it channel into just making the plays defensively, which today he didn't do, but ultimately not the end of the world. They were able to overcome it, which is why you like the clutch hitting. Trevor says there has to be something behind his power loss, though. 3 homers is just crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's that conversation of, like, do you really need to hit to all fields? We always talk about when he gets one the opposite way, like, oh, he's all fields, but I think that's the worst thing for him. He should be trying to pull every fly ball. But maybe he is and was striking out a lot, so that's why he says, look, pulling fly balls is one thing. I got to put the ball in play. I got to start somewhere. And so if he was kind of not feeling it with his swing for a period of time, maybe trying to go the other way is a way to start to dial it back in. But yeah, we're still not seeing the power consistently. Trey, I don't know who bought the Riverfront Times, but I do know that it wasn't me. Baseball Moron says Ollie averaging 4 ejections per year. Boone has averaged 5 per year for 7 years, so Ollie needs to pump up the rookie numbers. Yeah, but now he's on pace for like 6 this year, right? Because they're not quite a third of the way through the season, and he's been ejected twice. Now, granted, they both come within the last couple of weeks, but I'm not hating. It's working. They're 2-0 when he's gotten run. So, Billy, is it time to just tell Walker to play like Mason Wynn? The power will come in time. He's shown a history of being a 300 hitter with occasional power. Yeah, but Mason Wynn plays elite shortstop defense, and Jordan Walker plays average at best right field defense, and was obviously very, very poor last year in right field. This year, I think he's been fine when he was here. It's just not a talking point, right? It's not bad enough to say, oh, it's a detriment, but you aren't providing value defensively. And if you're not doing that, then you need to be, what you're justifying your role is you're a slugger. So I think that's why it's pertaining to like a combo of what he does offensively for what he brings defensively. Mason could just be a, slightly below average hitter. He's not. He's been above average. But if he was below average, you'd still take that because of how good his defense is. Jason says, more surprising the last couple weeks, the Cardinals or Mizzou softball. It's definitely the Cardinals because Mizzou softball hosted the regional. And they're going to be hosting again on Friday, taking on Duke in the Supers, trying to get to the College World Series. I hope they freaking get in, man. That'd be so cool. Mizzou softball stadium is going to be packed this weekend in Columbia. That's for darn sure. Getting to host Supers, that's a lot of fun. Siani every day in center, no questions. That's what Spencer says. Corn can't wait for the Cards to turn it around and everyone gives the Fire Ollie crap a break. Well, I haven't seen that any tonight, so that's good. Are they skipping over the 5th spot in the rotation this weekend? That's what Joseph wants to know. I don't think so. I think Saturday they're going to start Liberatore, if I had to guess, but they will not announce that until they're ready. So I don't believe they're skipping over it based on reports from Bush today that Liberatore was throwing his bullpen session. That's my best guess. Vision on Dylan Carlson's future in St. Louis. I'm going to have to scroll through some of the repeat commenters just to get to maybe some of the folks I haven't heard from. But anybody that has a comment that they really are like, I need Brendan's take on, at b-schaefer12 on Twitter, you can DM me if you don't super chat it or I don't happen to get to it tonight. Always DM me. I try to get to those as much as I can regardless. But that's part of the membership too. I'm vowing if you're a member of the channel that I'll always answer your DMs. And we'll get the Discord going. I promise. And yes, the outs above average for Siani are best on the team, no doubt. Let's see. The vision on Dylan Carlson's future in center. That was Siani's outs above average, not Dylan's. My vision on his future is that it could go the way of a Tyler O'Neill. It could go the way of Elaine Thomas. It could go a way of, he's a 4th outfielder right now. When he first came back from the IL, he did not look good. Offensively, the numbers are still rough, but defensively, in center or right, it was rough. Now, today I thought he had a better beat on some of the things in left field, but my vision is like, you'd like to see him put it together, but is he going to get the consistent enough playing time without another injury to see it working out in St. Louis long term? It's a fair question. I don't know that I could answer it right now in the affirmative either. But Spencer mentions, hey, I mean, Carlson might look cooked, but so did Newt before he turned it on. So maybe that is something that you can look at and say, hey, it maybe it's not over, Updates on Edman. That was Damien that wanted to know. He's coming along. He's not even eligible to come off the IL just yet, Damien. And sorry I missed that earlier. I didn't realize you had super chatted that. I feel like anything you get from him in the first half is a bonus. That's going to be my point to reiterate. Middleton is close. I think he's been doing some rehabbing. I think he's with Springfield and not Memphis. Not 100% on that, but he's close. Like within the next week, I would think that he could very well join him on the road trip because that's like a longer. I think they go Cincy, Philly, Houston. So provided everything goes okay in the rehabs, I think you're talking about within the next couple of weeks, he'll be back. And, who do you send down? All that's going to be a question, but certainly interesting to see kind of what he's been able to do as he goes along in his rehab and whether or not he's going to be the impact arm that you kind of hoped and thought he could be. Brian says sweeps aren't that hard, baby. And Gallegos, Damien, he's kind of throwing, but for Gio, it was like, I don't think Gio was really, like, it's not that he wasn't hurt, but if he was pitching well, it wouldn't have been the conversation. It's like the chicken or the egg. And with him, it was like, okay, he was pitching so poorly that it was either IL or something else, and they went IL. Scott says, imagine what things might look like if they had a fifth starter. Imperative they find an arm unless they've already resigned themselves to fishing trips in October. Yeah, I think, you can do the Liberatore thing for a little bit while longer, but, I do think that a fifth starter would, fifth starter, maybe not the most important thing. Like if you get a league average number 5, that'll help them get to the playoffs, which is Scott's point. They don't want fishing trips in October. When you get to the playoffs, you still have to think about who's your number 2, who's your number 3, but that's better than not being in October in the first place. Spencer says it was actually me who told you to do memberships, but he's sorry he's just broke, and that's okay. I understand being broke. But no, Damien was literally DMing me on Twitter like, do it. I was like, okay, I'm sorry, I'll do it. And so I did. But thank you to Spencer as well. Appreciate you, man. Carlson will come around, says Darren, but needs at-bats in Memphis. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say for sure that the Cardinals wouldn't do that at some point with Dylan, but it's also, not the kind of move that you make while a team is winning, right? You don't want to have to make those uncomfortable decisions unless there's a breaking point that says, okay, we've got to do it. As of today, Kevin says I could see them making the wild card. If Contreras and Walker come back swinging hot bats, along with everybody else continuing their production, Cardinals could win the Central. And I also think they probably could if all those things happen. A lot of ifs. Brandon loves the bullpen, even the B squad. Jens says Cards were 11-4 against the AL East last year. For some reason, they own that division, but are hot garbage against garbage teams. That is weird because that was like the best division in baseball last year, and they're doing it again this year. The division not as great top to bottom in the AL East, but still pretty good. Sam says, feel like we're not talking about Donovan enough. Have barely seen his name. Huge hit today when needed. Yeah, I'm waiting for that OPS to get above 700, but you're right. Like, there's a lot that you could say in a positive way about him, for sure. Josh Jacobs made the point about, and this is from Mariposa, them going 11-3 last season to get back to around 500, and then, well, we know the rest. Yeah, so, like, now they've climbed the mountain, and they're not even up yet because they're not at 500. They're still below it. But what do you do after is going to be the question. And this road trip's going to be interesting. You get the Cubs first, so hopefully you can take 2 or 3 and even claw a little bit closer to that 500 mark. But then you go to the Reds, who have been struggling. They're in last place, but they also have a lot of talent. Like, you have to contend with Ellie De La Cruz for 3 days. That's tough. Philly is, I mean, they're lapping the Braves right now in the standings, which is unbelievable. The Braves are a really good team. So, that's something you got to think about. And then I think you go to Houston, which is a team that's struggling, but there's a lot of talent there. And if they can get the pitching figured out by then, that's not going to be an easy series either. So what I'm saying is, like, it's all going to come out in the wash. You're going to find out what this team really is. Trevor says that getting Wilson Contreras back is just like making a trade, and it actually will be. That one is fair. Spencer says 130 viewers. Yeah, we did have a good number of viewers. Still at 100. Likes are at 77. Let's get it to 80. We can do it. We can do it. Jennifer wants to know what has to happen for Dylan to get more playing time. He's got to do a lot with the little that he gets, and then you might have to have an injury. It really might be the only way. Because, I mean, you look at Dylan's numbers right now, Jennifer, it's just tough. He's got a 100 batting average and a 315 OPS. Was 0 for 3 today. Did score after reaching base via walk, but that's just kind of what it is. Just Jershon Wynn's reaction to the City Connects was gold. Yeah, I haven't seen it. Charlie Marlowe told me about it, but I heard him say that they could have been better. I wonder if that was on camera somewhere or if that was just a tweet. I kind of want to look it up right now just to see what's up with that. And I don't see it. Oh, here we go.
Their City Connects, yeah. That's
No, he did not say that. No way.
Their City Connects, yeah, that's for sure.
Dude, thank you to whoever commented that, because I had not seen his comments about it. There's City Connects, that's for sure. That is awesome. Yeah, that is gold, just Jershon. I'm glad he said that. Look, I actually like them fine. I think they're fine. But if your own players, and like, let's be honest, like your cool players, like Mason Wynn, I'm gonna trust his take on like what's fashionable, what's cool. He just embodies cool. So if he's clowning on him, that's probably not a good sign. That's probably not a good sign. And I'm like the old guy dad that's like, I think they're great. Yeah, that tells you where I'm at. I still wear ankle socks sometimes too, though. So I'm it's over for me. That's all right. I'm 29. The last days of my 20s will be realizing that I'm way beyond anything that could have been considered cool as I turn 30 in July. So anyway, that's fun. I'm so glad, though. I'm so glad Jershon put that in there. That's pretty good. Andrew says, got to be honest, did not expect this, but boy, does it put a smile on my face. I'm not ready to say the Cards are back just yet, but man, it's more fun to watch Cardinals baseball again. Yeah, no kidding. Andrew, I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way that you feel. Crazy fan wanted to know about Packy Naughton. I think he started like throwing. He was like long-term injured to where like he got invited to spring training, but like wasn't really relevant. And now he's going to ramp it back up again. Look, we know that he was effective with the Cardinals when he was with them, and they kept him around, not on the 40-man. So never say never, but he's coming back from a pretty big injury. So that'll be another one that they take slow. Look, I want to touch once more on the City Connects. What I think about them is they're very Cardinals. Like Bill DeWitt III, I saw that he told Hockman we weren't going to have any that didn't have the birds on the bat. It's like, okay, if you're starting from that standpoint, you've kind of missed the assignment. Like there are no rules. You don't have to make your own self-imposed rules, but the Cardinals do that. And I think the hats probably people are not like, if I had to guess, Mason Wynn is mostly looking at the hat going. And look, he's probably like, okay, City Connects. Why are the birds still on the bat? We love it. That's an awesome regular uniform. This was allowed to be different, and they didn't make it different. But Bill DeWitt III, they're very traditional org. He is in charge of the kind of uniform aesthetic sort of stuff. He's the caretaker of that within the organization and the branding, and said we weren't going to do it without birds on the bat. So that kind of limits what creativity you can have. They're very basic. They're bland. They are very Cardinals. But I also think they look kind of nice. I think they're slick. I think they're not City Connects in the same way that a lot of other teams have them, which is like think of something new and different and do it. You know, and it's also like, okay, Nelly. I'm not dogging Nelly, but like every time there's anything, and the Cardinals are like, all right, let's be creative. It's like that kid in the high school class that's like, you always know he's going to go back to the well with the exact same thing. That's the Cardinals and Nelly. Every time there's like a group project, like this assignment is going to be about, horses because he loves horses, or it's going to be about, plants because he's a big plant guy or whatever. He's a vegan, so he wants to. It's like, all right, you need a thing that's kind of off the beaten path a little bit, but it's not Nelly. Lean into Nelly. It's like, okay, like very predictable. They were very, very predictable, but that also doesn't mean they don't look okay. That's the best way I can describe it. I like them fine. Would have liked to see more fleur-de-lis, more city St. Louis flag, and more arch. But, it is what it is. All right, I'm going to scroll. Jason says the Cardinals are now in third in the division. Hope they keep trending in the right direction. Yeah, I think, well, are they third or they're tied, I think, with the Pirates? Or not the Pirates. Unless the Pirates have lost since I last looked, which may have been the case. I don't remember where they were playing today. I was watching Padres Reds a little earlier. I love having MLB TV. It is awesome. The Pirates, as we scroll, this shouldn't take that long. I'm sorry. They did lose, so the Cardinals are in third by themselves, 5 games out. So thank you for that note. Don't look now, says Alex, but one more sweep here and the entire season is turned around. Yeah, I mean, getting to 500 would be a pretty big benchmark, I think, to be able to go, okay, everything's good, everything's better. You know? I don't know that it would mean everything's better, but it would feel a lot better. You might finally get to see a truly packed Busch this weekend. Hunter's right. It is going to be a pretty packed crowd, so I would have to think. Like, why wouldn't it be? Cardinals, Cubs, 2 teams that you kind of hope are contending. The Cubs are. The Cardinals are looking now like they're about to be. If Goldie keeps his pace, does he retire? Want to give him a ring. Let's hope we get it done this year. I don't think so. I think he's still young enough that he'll keep playing, but you never know. But I'd be surprised at a retirement, even if he is bad the whole year. I don't know what would happen. Cardinals could kind of give him that Wainwright contract of like, come back on incentives, or he could go somewhere else. I See Aliens says, when did the Cardinals hire Matt Holliday as a batting consultant? They've got Yachty already as one consultant, and he didn't show. So I don't know if they're looking to hire more. Holliday would have a hitting coach job with the Cardinals the minute he wants it, is my opinion. But I don't think he wants it. I think now that, he's got a kid in the pros or AAA, he's going to be in the big leagues again. Jackson, you might as well just enjoy life, man. Watch your kids play. That's what I would do. If he's made the money, you don't need to work hard anymore, so why would you do it? That is kind of my motto. So I'm imagining my life in his shoes. I would not be a hitting consultant or any kind of consultant, unless it was just like a fake title that you just wanted to be around the game, in which case that's fine. There's plenty of those out there. Benjamin asks Helsley. I don't know what the question was, though. When they trade for Jackson Holliday, I don't think Helsley for Holliday would happen. Helsley is who the Orioles need, though. Felix Bautista on the IL this year. I don't think it'll be Jackson Holliday. I think if the Cardinals did trade Helsley, and look, they would only do it if they were out of the race, and they were also pretty sure they were going to be trading like Arenado, moving from next year's team to admit a lower payroll. I think if those things happened, then you could end up seeing a Helsley deal, but you'd have to be 10 games under in July. Like, I don't think it's a real major concern right now. So I'm kind of thinking, Helsley's going to be around. But if this was going to be the case, I think you're talking like you're asking for Kobe Mayo. You're asking for maybe a Heston Kjerstad, maybe both. I don't know if you're going to get that. But also, with the Cardinals lineup kind of looking better right now, maybe you're not. Maybe you're asking what young pitchers they have, and that's not really what the Orioles have as much as they have hitting, right? And if it's a young pitcher that they're using, they're obviously not trading that guy away. So it's fair to wonder. Fair to wonder. Benjamin says bench is a black hole now, and it kind of is. It kind of is. John and Dean Ellis say, hey, boy, roll up your sleeves. Let's get a ticket to the gun show. I don't know about that. I haven't been doing very many pull-ups recently. Gotta get into some summer shape. And here it is in summer, and I'm not in that shape. Go figure. To make room for Contreras, Edmund, Walker, Pages, Carpenter, Crawford would have to go. Well, Pages is, he would be the obvious one for Contreras, although he's done a very nice job. Edmund for Crawford makes sense to me. Walker probably, to get all 3 of them, which again, Contreras is not till July, so other injuries will likely happen. I'm thinking, though, that it's going to be hard to see Carpenter go, unless he says he just wants to shift mid-year to a coaching role, which maybe he does. Who knows? Hunter says 86 and 76, final wild card, let's ride. Yeah, that would work. Clay, just tuning in. I've been at work for all these games, or it's been blacked out for me. Excited to see the sweep went the opposite way of what was expected going into the series. I think a lot of people feel that way. Imanaga, Tyone, and Assad. Thank you, Hunter, for the Cubs pitching staff this weekend. Where was I on the Kiss Cam a couple of games ago? No, I was not. Because the only games I've been as a spectator were Sunday. I was there Sunday, but my wife was not there, so I would not have been on the Kiss Cam. I was in the upper deck, so I doubt that I was even shown, right? I was there with my son. So that would have been no. And then earlier in the season, we had really good seats behind home plate, but did not end up on the Kiss Cam. I always thought that would be fun to do, though. I don't think I would do like the people go and they get really into it. Just do your part, move on, don't make a scene, Did Donovan get a true inside the Parker? No, that was an error. The throw was from the catcher, and it was just a total error. But it was a Little League home run for sure. Ray says Gorman's defense has been a surprise. Not really. I thought he was good last year. He was solid last year. Solid second baseman and the best second base arm in baseball, if I had to guess. Spencer says, yeah, and they signed Ciani off of waivers. Yeah, he was a good pickup. And I've done the mea culpa on that, where I basically said at times, like, come on, who's Michael Ciani? Why is he on the 40-man? I was wrong. He should be on the 26-man all year. I was wrong. 43 games played for Gorman, 7 homers. I think he's up to 8 homers now. On pace for 28 homers, so which is really more like 30, almost 240. So you think that's okay, just asking, not attacking. Well, but 43 games, yeah, no, like 28 to 30 home runs is certainly okay. But if it's with a 690 OPS, I don't care as much about it. You need to still have, I'm all about OPS because it's very simple. Are you also getting on base a little? And homers are going to give you slugging percentage, but are you slugging enough? Are you hitting doubles and stuff beyond that to be able to sustain a good slug? If you have 30 homers, but you're slugging 380, that don't impress me much, as what's her name would say back in the 90s. I almost like sang it, and then I was like, hold on, slow down. You are not that type of country singer. So I held off. I'm trying to look up the numbers right now for Gorman. 724 OPS, hitting a little over 200. But what I want to know is his slug. And I am having a really hard time finding it. How dumb is this? MLB.com has average, on base, and OPS. I guess I'll do a little math. 724 minus 703 is 421. So that's, not the slug that you'd want for Nolan Gorman necessarily, but it's better than not slugging 400. I'm still laughing at the Mason Win City Connect comments. So funny. What about Sim Robertson on Saturday? Peter, I don't think they're going that route yet. Just based on seeing Liberatore throw his bullpen, I think it's going to be him. Or like a Brad Keller. Burleson's an all-star. We'll see. I would be surprised, but we'll see. What did I think about Mo's comments on the morality of signing Trevor Bauer? Yeah, he basically said you don't, want to do. You're always looking for ways to improve, but they don't want to compromise their morals. I thought it was right. So if you feel a different way about Trevor Bauer, we're going to have to agree to disagree. There is a reason he's not been signed. Not one team. There's 30 teams out there, and none of them signed him. I don't know. What does it tell you? And there's also information out there if you wanted to. Pictures, different things you could look at. Kind of some stuff you wish you didn't have to see, but it's out there. So anyway. Lineup can be really fun in July with the additions of Edmund Wilson and Jay Walk. Still need a 3-4 guy to hit like a 3-4 guy. Yeah, I mean, if you wake up tomorrow and on the off day, Arenado and Goldschmidt say, you know what, we're going to just be our 2022 selves again. And you're like, oh, really? Now you're talking. This Cardinals team is a difference-making lineup at that point. We'll see if that happens. Tread water till July, still tied in 5th from last in homers. Yeah, they're not a big homer team. Jack Flaherty, welcome home at the deadline. Yeah, somehow I don't see that happening. Chan the man, call up one of Jerpy, Graceffo, Robertson, McGreevy, or Hentz. Well, Jerpy's in like A-ball. He's not coming. Hentz is in Double-A. They could. How about Hentz making his debuts in the City Connects on Saturday? That'd be kind of fun. Don't expect it, though. Graceffo would actually be my answer. McGreevy has been really rough in AAA. Robertson, still a little younger than Graceffo. Graceffo would be my answer of just like, can he just, he's former minor league pitcher of the year. I know his numbers aren't great, but can you just call him up and see? Maybe he could just pull it off. That would be what I would do. Or Palante, as I said earlier. I meant to say, Darren says, I went back to watch the 96 LCS because he watched it live. Overhead plate cam was shut off during that series because it was so bad. Wow. They basically said, nope, we don't want to call attention to these umpires. Interesting. Brian says, definitely not at the we're back situation just yet because some of the pitching has been exposed. Definitely riding this one out. It's awesome. If the Cardinals stay consistent like this and take series, they did take the safe route, though, on the City Connects for sure. Jack, thank you for chiming in. And, yeah, happy July birthday, gang, as well. July 1st, that's me. They always shoot fireworks off 4 days after my birthday to celebrate. Everybody does, the whole country, just for me. So there you go. Allison, if a manager gets thrown out, oh, yeah, I asked that. All right, I think, did I make it to the end of the chat? Let me see. I'm sure I missed some. Making sure I read the super chats. I did that. Okay, guys. Well, it's been an hour and 37 minutes, and I said that I would go less than that. Here's a good one, though, from John and Dean. When you see sports media members from rival networks in public, do you stare daggers at each other? Oh, that's not what I thought that was going to ask. No, I would say that most people in media, like we're up in the press box all together. Those are kind of your colleagues, right? You're talking, you're shooting the breeze with them. Everybody's great, friendly. There's not like that dagger stare. There can always be little media rivalries and certain things that happen. But like on a general basis, it's all very friendly, and you're trying to, some clever people, man. You're trying to make the other guy laugh or whatever. That's kind of the vibe. Ray said 1-6 against the Brewers has been the most damaging. Yeah, no kidding, because you're not getting those games back. Ray, that's a good point. It's a very good point. All right, I know there were some here and there that I missed, but I do need to get out of here. Hour 40 almost. We're going to rock and roll with this. Before you go, see if we can get up to 100 likes. As you depart, hit like, pick up your beer bottles and your trash with you, throw those away, recycle, whatever. Thank you guys for joining. You can subscribe too. If you've just been lurking and you've never subscribed, we do daily Cardinals content. I am going away for part of this weekend series. I'll be covering Friday, a little bit off the grid Saturday, Sunday, but I'm still probably going to bring my stuff to be able to do some work. So I don't want to leave you high and dry. I did pretty good on that wedding weekend, though. The fact that I posted every day but one day while I was gone, even though I didn't have my computer, it's pretty good. But Cardinals content all season long. You can count on that from me. Find the link in the description to all the videos if you'd like to become a channel member. Thank you guys so much for the support, for listening, for watching, for commenting, for liking. That's going to do it for this edition of b-schaeff Daily Live. We'll talk to you next time on the channel. Peace.